Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. Yes, Jason, but how exactly does it work? This is a question that I get all the time. We get emails from all y'all that say, we understand the broad strokes, but we want to hear from the operations people that keep the wheels on the wagon. Makes all the sense in the world to me. Friends, you are going to hear from an absolute dynamo today. Their team does over 950 units for more than $280 million a year, and they do it in the Midwest. This human started on the team when she was 18 years old in a marketing role. Now, 13 years later, she is the CEO of all things Glover. Friends, I am talking about none other than Taylor Kerrigan. She is dynamic, she is incredible, not only a head for operations, but also a head for sales. Yes, you heard right, both sides, she is the unicorn. She is going to tell you exactly how to scale a business and what sort of value you need if you want to become the number one team in your town. Sit back and buckle up. This is Taylor Kerrigan. Taylor, how are you?
I'm doing amazing, Jason. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, by the way, for being on the program. It's an honor for us to have you. What you have done in the industry is so rare and so incredible. You are going to be the talk of the town because every single agent listening is going to wish they had someone like you in their life. And they don't know it yet, but I do. So let's start from the beginning. I ask everyone the same question. How did you end up in the greatest industry in the world?
Yeah, so it's actually a really funny story. I actually had just graduated high school and I was going to college to get my degree in marketing. And my sister had actually went to high school with Jeff. And he posted on social media that he was looking for a marketing assistant. And, my sister came home and she showed me the screenshot and she's like, hey, this guy was a little kind of, interesting in high school, but he seems like he has a really good thing going and maybe you can learn some great stuff from him. Maybe you just work there while you're, getting your degree and then you can go and get a real job, is what she said. I was like, all right, well, what do I have to lose? So I went and I interviewed with Jeff. The interview lasted all of about 15 minutes. And he's like, all right, well, I think you can do the job. Do you want to start tomorrow? And I'm like, okay, cool. Where do I go? What do I do? And he's like, well, in order to really coach you up, I think you actually need to go to this event instead. And they're going to teach you everything that you need to know. And I said, okay, cool. What's the address? Where do I go? Thinking it's in downtown Detroit or something like that. And he's like, well, in order to send you, I need your Delta Sky miles and your date of birth. So I give him this info and I'm like, where the heck am I going? And come to find out, this conference that I was going to was none other than Keller Williams Family Reunion. So as you guys know, 20,000 people, I'm wondering how I find Jeff in this crowd. Where do I go for my training? I'm thinking that this is onboarding. And so I show up and actually in the moment that I was walking in, Jeff was on stage. And I'm like, okay, my sister said this guy was kind of interesting in high school. Who is he that he's on front of all of these people, at Family Reunion? And so I share that because in that moment, I knew I was in the right place with the right person. And he was the person who was going to get me, to my unreal life. So started, obviously, first day was at Family Reunion, came back home, and I was his marketing assistant for about a year. And what we realized is what Jeff actually needed. He didn't need a marketing assistant. He needed an executive assistant. He was selling about 100 homes a year at that time. And he didn't really have anyone who was kind of like holding him accountable to his schedule or helping him with client communication or anything like that. And so I kind of fell into the EA position and really started helping him with customer experience, becoming a little bit more proactive versus reactive. And that very next year together, he was selling 100 homes. That next year together, we sold 227 in 1 year. So it was super cool. Obviously, what was awesome about that is it showed me that I was really passionate about customer experience and systems and operations. So every year since then, we grew our business, by about 20%. And 1 year, actually, it was myself and 2 other operations people. So we had 3 people on the team. Both of them turned in their resignation letters at the same day. Now, keep in mind, this is June. You're in Michigan in real estate. It's the busiest month for us. So what's really cool about that is you instantly get promoted to director of operations when there's...
Congratulations.
Right, yeah. He's like, okay, do you want the good news or the bad news? The good news is you just got a promotion. The bad news is you got it by default. So I became director of operations and really got to kind of redo our customer experience. Part of the challenge that we had is these people were with Jeff for a really long time, and you see it all the time in businesses. You have people that you retain just because, you've been in business with them for so long, but sometimes they're resistant to change or improvement. And that's kind of what happened here. So it gave us the opportunity to kind of revamp our entire customer experience, and honestly was a blessing in disguise. We got to rehire the right people, and knock on wood, those people are still with us to this day. So I was director of operations for Jeff for quite some time, helped him launch a couple of businesses, really took our business to the next level. We started selling 1,000 homes. And then basically within it was about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I went to Jeff and I said, I feel like I've got this operations thing down. I'm not really feeling challenged anymore. What is your suggestion? And he said, well, if you want a challenge, I'll give you one. And you're going to go run Glover Agency, which is our real estate team. So what was interesting about that is he said, but in order for you to do so, you first have to lead by example, and you have to be actively selling real estate. Now, I was helping him with his transactions, right, because I was getting them from contract to close, but I never actually went on listing appointments. I never went on buyer consults. They kind of just came to me after they were already signed. So I really had to get good at that and, really gain the respect of all of these people. And now, granted, I had it a little bit because I had been there for a decade at that point, but I had to gain it in a different way by showing that I'm just like you and I can sell just like you. And so really started focusing on selling real estate and essentially became the sales director of Glover Agency. And now I've been doing that for the last, I guess it's 2 years now. And last year we had our best year in the history of the company as far as sales volume out of the last 20 years. Our agents are doing amazing. We also recruited the most amount of agents that we ever have in the organization to the tune of about 2 million in GCI added by producing real estate agents. So it's safe to say, while I love operations, I actually am very much a salesperson and very much love the thrill of selling. And that's really where my passion lies.
Well, and you've recently, because of that success you just mentioned, you've been named CEO of that firm.
Yeah, I feel like I've been doing it for a really long time, and titles are just titles, in my opinion, but it's cool to actually have, the title for that organization because it's something that I'm over the top, truthfully passionate about.
Well, you've earned it. Congratulations on the success. So if I'm sitting out there in the real estate multiverse and I'm listening to this, my immediate question is, how do you do it? Because how many agents do you all have? Because you pride yourself on agent productivity. This isn't a place where we tout the number of agents. You actually tout the productivity of each of the agents.
So I'm really graded on per person production and also making sure we track average tenure in our organization, which is about 8 years, which, in a lot of real estate teams, it's somewhat of a revolving door, and we never want to be that organization. And so one of the ways that we increase per person production and maintain average tenure is having a strong value proposition and all of the training and the coaching that goes behind that.
I love that. And that's what I want to unpack with you. But before we do, can you frame this idea of per person production? Just so we know, is it that they sell one house a year? Is it that they sell a house a month? How do you think about it?
Yeah. So, our goal, like right now, we're about 20 units per person is about our average. And we take into consideration, we're counting our full-time agents with that. We really don't have any part-time associates or anything like that. We count our people who are showing up every single day. So if you're treating this like a job, like we're supposed to, right? Like a true salesperson and showing up every single day, out of all of those people, our average per person is about 20 units, which when you compare that to some other organizations, that's a really great number.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I want to unpack it. And so you know what time it is, friends. This is the time when we're actually going to give you the model. So don't worry about taking the notes. I'm taking the notes. I have the pen in hand. If you don't get the notes, we email them out every Thursday. So if you want to get them, go to MREAnotes.com. That's MREAnotes.com. Enter your email, and we will email it out to you. Okay, Taylor, give us a masterclass. Teach us exactly how to get my average agent production to 20 units a year.
Yeah. So what we do is we look at Glover Agency, we really see that there's 5 reasons why people join and stay in our organization. Some of them are directly related to increasing per person production, and you'll kind of see what I mean, when I walk through them. So the first, obviously, that I would focus on is training. And that's without a doubt one that's going to help you with your per person production. And obviously, I've been in the industry now for 13 years. So I've been to different trainings. I've been to different classes that are held, in the market. And kind of what I've realized and what irks me the most is when I'm taking an hour or 2 out of production to go to a training and I leave with 2 sentences of notes. That's not a good use of our time. And so, in our organization, our agents can count on, and I hold myself and our leadership team to the standard, the classic, if it could be an email, it should be an email. Not only that, but we're also constantly focused on when we are building our training calendar, which it's a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday training. It lasts 30 minutes, starts on time, ends on time. We're always focused on, okay, one of the agents in our organization, his name's Sean. He's an amazing gentleman. He's in his 30s. He's going to sell 150 homes this year. Last year, he sold 125. I cater my training to him because in my mind, as his leader, if I'm going to pull him out of production for 30 minutes, I know what that dollar per hour worth is. So I want to make sure that whatever I'm training him on during that time period is something that's going to help him sell a house later that day. So we're doing a ton of things, anything related back to skills or building their business. Like, for instance, hybrid farming is a huge source of ours. And hybrid farming is basically, it's your traditional farming with adding a couple extra things. It's actually my number one source of business. It's taking and essentially building a stronger connection with people in the community. And so we teach things like that.
Well, wait, no. See, my audience, they're going to pull their car over and start screaming.
Yeah.
Tell me what makes hybrid farming different than farming. What are the few extra things? So you're sending mail to an area. What else are you doing?
Yeah. So what's important about hybrid farming, traditional farming is sending just listed and just sold mailers. Okay. Hybrid farming is where we focus on infotaining. For instance, I actually just sent this out for February. I sent the 4 hottest restaurants to take your Valentine to this Valentine's Day here in Northville. So it's sending infotaining postcards. And the logic behind that, Jason, is because if I'm not looking to buy or sell right now, what's happening to my just sold postcard that I'm sending? They're looking at it and then they're tossing it in the trash. So what we focus on instead is how can we get you on the fridge? And so that's where we're talking infotaining. So every other month, we're sending them an infotaining postcard because now not only are we appealing to the people who are looking to buy or sell, but we're also appealing to the people who aren't. And as you know, about 50% of moves are planned, 50% of moves are not planned. So now we're hitting both of those. But it's also mixing in events. Like, for instance, my demographic of my farm skews a little bit older. And I had to figure out what myself and 80-year-olds had in common. And so
you both love cats.
That is true. And I considered that. But what I posted was Valentine's Day bingo at my clubhouse. I did that the day before Valentine's Day. I had 65 people from my neighborhood at an event with me, bonding over cats and bingo. And that was amazing, right? So when we're talking about hybrid farming, it's not just sending postcards. It's obviously being a little bit more infotaining, but constantly providing value to the farm. And I'll tell you, anyone in my neighborhood will say I'm the salesperson for that neighborhood. Everyone knows that if you're going to buy or sell in that neighborhood, you're calling me. So those are the things that we're teaching our agents, right? We're not taking the traditional path. We're updating it. And I'll be transparent, testing it first as a leadership team, making sure that we're having success with it. And when we are, then turning around and teaching it to our agents. So that training is always higher level. You can go to your MLS to learn how to write a contract. if I'm going to pull you out, I'm going to teach you something that's going to help you sell a house.
What else are you teaching?
We do a team meeting once a month where each of our people in our leadership team are training something. Now, what's important about that is in your classic office meeting or your classic team training, you have your vendors come in and they talk about the new loan programs and they talk about like why they're the best. All of our vendors know that if you want a spot in my team meeting, you need to send me your training material at least a week in advance and show me what you're going to teach. And that's the difference, right? So instead of our loan officer coming in and talking about loans, he's coming in and talking about how you can take, let's just say ABC that's happening right now and use it as a lead generation tool to convert a buyer who's in your CRM, to get out and show homes with. Not just here's our program and here's why I'm the best. So it's having a standard around the training.
So it's all actionable content, and it sounds like it's all delivered in a very fast and tactical format.
Absolutely. Yes.
How long is the monthly meeting that you do, the all-group meeting?
Yeah, so the monthly meeting is from 9 until 12, and we're using the entire time.
Break it down for me, because 2 hours feels like a long time. Does it follow the same sort of, here are the segments we hit each month?
Yeah, so it's actually 3. What we do is basically, I'll have a segment. So for instance, mine, like for this month, because our next one is on Monday. So actually I was working on the team meeting agenda right before this. I'm teaching messaging. And messaging is what do you want to be known for? Right? So I have like 11 things that I'm going to walk the team through. Out of these 11, which one resonates with you the most? And how is that reflected on your social media? So for instance, this goes back to, okay, if I'm going to teach this at 9 a.m., by 2 p.m., it is something that our agents can implement that can help them with selling a house later that day, right? Our marketing team will come in. Right now, we're doing a ton with collabs and collabing with local businesses because, let's just say your local coffee shop has a huge following. How often are you collabing with them and getting in front of their market as well or their database as well? Jeff naturally will always teach something sales skills. He's walking through plaques, which is something that he just talked about, during family reunion. He's walking them through deep dive in that. Our sales manager will teach something on stats. And now naturally, we also do the rah-rah of giving the awards out and recognizing people. But in comparison of a 3-hour training, that portion of the rah-rah and the congratulations lasts maybe about 15 minutes. And the logic behind that is we're not going to celebrate previous successes. We're going to focus on what we're doing to get the next success.
Makes perfect sense to me. Okay, so I think I understand training. What's next?
Next is accountability. So agents get into the business for freedom and flexibility. It's also the number one reason why they fail. And we do everything we can to avoid that. So for instance, early this morning at 8 a.m., I've already actually had 6 one-on-ones with our agents this morning. They're 15 minutes. There is a structure to them. They start on time, they end on time. And, there's a difference between micromanaging and accountability. Micromanaging is me asking you, Jason, it's, 10:30, what are you doing right now? Accountability is you coming to me and saying, hey, I want to sell 30 homes this year. And me showing you the business plan of doing it and then asking you how bought in you are on it based on your actions. And so it's essentially, we really follow like the cumulative method of, okay, if you're supposed to sell X every month we don't have it, we fall farther and farther behind. How are we changing our actions as a result? And it's holding them accountable to what they said they were going to do. And I'm very big on, you're not going to tell me how bad you want it. You're going to show me how bad you want it by executing on the things I tell you to do. And those happen twice a month, 15 minutes, twice a month, rapid fire. As their leader, I'm taking the notes and I send them to them afterwards. It obviously also helps me with remembering, what they're supposed to be working on.
And you're meeting with them one-on-one. How often is that?
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
Yep. So typically always around the 15th. So it's always the week of the 15th, which is why they're happening right now. And then, the other one is typically around the 1st of the month. And the reason why you do it around the 15th of the month is because we have the classic midway May Day, right? Where if we're halfway to the month and not halfway to the goal, what are we doing to adjust for the second half of the month?
And in that meeting, I'm assuming they're setting a goal that you're holding them accountable to. Is that goal based around contacts or closings? Or are there multiple things you're tracking?
Yeah. So basically what we do, I made this mistake in year 1 as a sales director. By the way, we all do it, where it's like, oh, it's okay, we'll make it up in the spring. Oh, it's okay, we'll make it up in the summer, right? Summer's our busy month, it'll be fine. And we didn't have a great year that first year. We actually took a step backwards. And when I reflected on what I did wrong, I did exactly that. I kept saying, oh, it's okay, it'll come, it'll come. So we do the exact opposite now. Every month, we're paying close attention to where we're supposed to be and where we are in relation to it. So the goals start with obviously their closings, and then they work backwards, right? So in order for us to have X amount of closings, how many deals do we have to have? How many listings do we have to take? How many appointments do we need to go on? How many contracts do we need to get signed? How many contacts do we need to make? So we track each of those for our agents. So like I could tell you if you named any person, I could pull up our tracker and I can tell you what their set to met ratio, what their met to signed ratio is, what their signed to close ratio is, which are all important when we're talking about providing strong accountability, which is honestly coaching. You could see accountability/coaching.
And during the 2 times you meet with them over the course of the month, I'm assuming you end up getting out of business with some of these folks.
Yeah, because listen, standards that are not upheld are just suggestions. Right. So, in our organization, we're really clear on, we are very much do for one, do for all, right? So we don't have favorites in our organization or anything like that, but we do have tiers. So each agent is in a specific tier based on their production. So it starts at bronze and it goes all the way up to platinum. And we classify you in those. And now, granted, you get different benefits at each tier as far as value proposition goes, but we're transparent that we don't want you to drop to the tier underneath you. So what are we doing right now to be in control of the day to avoid that from happening?
Help me understand these different levels. The services change, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that changes? And can you give me a few examples? Walk me through it. So I'm out there and I'm like, wow, I want to do that on my team. How would I think about it?
Yeah. So honestly, how it started, you fly Delta a lot, right?
I do, yeah.
So you will appreciate, I want to be diamond, right? I want to board in the second group. I want the automatic upgrades. I'm all about it, right? So I thought about, okay, if I feel this way about Delta, how could I create the same thing in our organization? And that's where the idea for tiers came from. It's more so now agents are competing against themselves because they want to get to that next tier. So at the different tier levels, there are different benefits. It kind of is directly related back to marketing spend. So essentially at each tier, there's a different dollar amount that they receive that they can use for things like those infotaining postcards, like we talked about with hybrid farming, or, events or stuff like that. So they get a different marketing spend, but also only our top 3 tiers get one-on-ones with me. And so we did that on purpose, so our other tiers do get one-on-ones, but it's with a different leader in our organization. So when they ask the question of what do I have to do to get in your schedule, the answer is sell X amount of homes, and then you'll get in my schedule. And then my job is to take them to the highest tier.
I love that. What are the breaks as far as units? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do. So we have a bronze tier, which those are for some of the brand new agents, who join the organization, because we do, we're not actively approaching brand new agents. I will tell you years ago, back when you were in our market, we were known as, yep, you go to Glover for, all your coaching and training, and that's fine. It's just not the quickest way to increase your revenue and so forth. So bronze is our lowest. Silver is anyone who's selling less than 15 homes a year. Gold is 15 to 30. Titanium is 30 to 50, and then diamond is 50 to 100, and then platinum is 100 plus.
And then is there a sweet spot? Do you look up and say, look, we love everybody, but if you're gold or if you're platinum?
Basically, my focus this year is to get more of our gold people into titanium. Sweet spot is gold and titanium. But what's really cool about this, Jason, is if I'm a leader listening to this, what is nice is when we're approaching the 4th quarter and someone sees that they're going to sell 28 homes, right? They're pacing for 28. Now I no longer have to motivate them to sell 2 extra homes. The tier motivates them to sell 2 extra homes because they're going to be mad at themselves when they realize that they could have got an extra 10 grand in marketing spend had you just sold 2 extra homes. So it really helps with increasing, when we talk about per person production, this is one of the greatest things that has helped increase per person production, is because they're holding themselves accountable to the tiers.
And your production from the previous 12 months, which is calendar year, informs which group you're in for the next 12 months. Is that right?
Yes. Now, if you don't pace for that, though, so if 6 months happens through the year and you're not pacing to maintain that tier, we have the right to drop you to the tier underneath you.
Got it. Okay, cool. Accountability. What's next?
Next is leverage. And this is natural, right? A lot of people listening probably have a pretty good operations team and taking things off of their plate. We really focus on, we don't want you to do anything income servicing. We write offers for you, rewrite listing paperwork. You want to create the organization or the culture in your organization where, your operations team understands that their client is the agent. No is not in our vocabulary. It is, I will figure it out. We try to take everything off of their plate. And the logic behind that is going back to per person production. Can you spend an hour writing that offer? Sure. Could you also spend that hour lead generating and set an appointment, which will make you more money? Yes. Right? So when we talk about, increasing PPP, you got to look at, where are your agents having a bottleneck? And in most cases, it's income servicing, and try to take as much as you can off of their plate.
Love that. On the leverage side, so it feels like it falls into a couple of buckets. You have transactional leverage.
Yeah.
Then you have ancillary business leverage, which is, well, people are going to need mortgages. They're going to need title. We can help them with that. Is there a third bucket? Are you also offering them leverage as humans?
Yeah. So what we look at, it's mostly transactional. I'll say like the majority of our leverage is we have something called like an agent assist program. So, and this actually goes back to one of the things that we say at Glover Agency is it's not only going to be that you're going to make more money when you align with us. It's also who you're going to become when you're with us. And the example that I give is, have you ever had a situation where you had to be late to a dinner reservation because you had to write an offer?
I have.
Correct. Right. Most people have. That's normal. And I don't want that to ever happen for you again. So we have something that's called our Agent Assist program, which, by the way, anyone can implement this. It's where, if your agent has an offer that they have to write, they reach out to the operations team and rewrite that offer for you. Rewrite that listing paperwork for you. A lot of people think that we do full TC services and like negotiate from contract to close. We don't. Instead, I look at it as if an agent has 100 things that they have to do, I want to take like 98 of them off of your plate. So that way, all you need to focus on is generating new opportunities and then servicing the opportunities that you have. And if we do that well, then that's where, back to the spirit of increasing per person production, if all you need to focus on 2 things every single day and everything else is taken off of your plate, then that's where we don't get as many distractions.
This is genius, and it makes all the sense in the world to me, though. As I'm listening to it, I have a limiting belief, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if you're going to provide all this, then can I still make a living?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that's why we don't do contract to close, right? So what I see, and by the way, like I coach people across the country, I see it all the time. They go heavy in handling the transaction to the close. Well, the problem with that, and I can say this because I was a TC, you only have so much that you can handle before you have to hire a new TC. So instead, go a little bit leaner and maybe help with paperwork or help with marketing that can be a little bit more systematized. So that way you can handle more. We only actually have an operations team of 8 people, and we're selling 1,000 homes plus a year. So when you look at that, like we are super efficient, and you know me, I'm fanatical with my time. I'm fanatical with time blocking. We instill that same energy in our operations team members. Every single morning, they send their time block. Every single morning, I know where they're spending their time and how effective they are in their position. And this happened because when we went through that breakdown to breakthrough process of losing the operations team members and me being on my own, I really learned that people could either work 8 hours or fill 8 hours. People who work 8 hours are grinding while they're in the office. People who fill 8 hours are taking 30 minutes to write an offer that actually only takes 5 minutes, right? So we lean on the side of no, we're going to maximize every single day that we can.
So how do the splits work? Is there different splits based on where the leads come in from, or is everyone on the same, or is buyer and listing?
Yeah.
Give me some context.
Good question. So, we made the decision years ago that we were going to be a do for one, do for all organization. I think a lot of times people get into slippery slopes, especially when you're starting to grow a large team, of having different splits for different people. And now you open yourself up to like a split versus net combo every other weekend, right? We don't want to do that. So everyone is on the same split. I always say like even Jeff's sister is on the same split. Where the favoritism comes in is in those tiers, right? Which anyone, like if you hit the titanium tier tomorrow, congratulations, here you go, right? It's very clear what you get based on your production as far as the tiers go. But we have company generated splits and then we have self-generated splits. And, the logic behind that is company generated. I always say it's icing on the cake, right? As a solo agent right now, you don't have any company generated business. So what's paying 50% for something that you don't have, right? We'd pay a referral fee for a deal that came in from out of state. So you'd pay 50% for one that I'm handing to you on a silver platter. And then self-generated obviously is, opportunities that they've generated themselves.
Okay, so 50-50 on company generated. What is it on the ones they've done themselves?
We pay as high as 70% on a self-generated buyer.
Okay, cool. So I got training, I got accountability, I have leverage. What's number 4?
Yeah, so the last two are branding is the next one. So what I do about every 6 months, I study agents in the market. Not necessarily agents that left our team because, we really don't have a lot of turnover in our organization, but more so like, okay, why did Bob leave this company and go to this company? And I'll ask Bob, hey, I know you don't know who I am. I'm just trying to, get some understanding of what's going on in the industry. Why did you leave, let's just say X organization and go to Y organization? And I pay attention to that. And what we identified a couple years ago was that the reason why a lot of agents left teams is because they felt like they lost their identity. And they feel like, when they join a team, now they're building Jeff's brand and they're not building their own brand. So what we focus on is we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support you in building your brand. So what this looks like, and here's the logic behind it. Naturally, yeah. You remember from living in Michigan, Jeff's on every billboard going up and down the expressway. That's fine because you have to put one person out to the entire state. But when we're talking about like their personal database and their personal communities that they hybrid farm in, it is 100% them. Jeff's face is nowhere to be found on it. We're not mentioning Jeff whatsoever. And the logic behind that is your database already knows you and likes you and hopefully trusts you. So they're more likely to do business with you. Now, when I put Jeff on it instead of Jason, they're like, who is this Jeff guy? I don't know who he is. Right? So we want to focus on making you the community or database celebrity. And so if you look at like any of our postcards that we send out or any of like database mailers or stuff like that, it is 100% branded to you. Like that Valentine's Day bingo, for instance, all of the signage had me on it. All of my open house signs have my photo on it. And I'll be transparent with you with a lot of teams. What I see holding them back as a team owner is that they have to let go of their ego and realize that they're going to get farther when they promote their agents and focus on the agent and building their brand. Your brand will naturally grow the more that you promote theirs.
I think that's brilliant. Okay, branding is number 4. What's number 5?
Last one is database. So this, without a doubt, especially with producers, this has been a huge one for us. We have really focused on helping you stay in front of your database because what I see, especially with already active selling real estate agents, so we're talking 20, 30, 40, 50 homes, they struggle with consistency. Meaning like maybe you sent something out in January, but then you forgot February, you remembered March, and then you forgot again until July, right? And then, oh crap, last one I sent out was my holiday card. Well, then you also wonder why you don't have consistent results from your database. You don't have consistent results because your output wasn't consistent, right? So what we do, and this is actually one of the things that we cover at our team meeting every single month, is I've actually put together a database guide. So every single month, if you're going to call them, here's what you're going to say. If you're going to mail them, here's what you're going to mail them. If you're going to host an event, here's the event that I suggest you do. If you're farming, here's the farming postcard. If you're going to send them a gift, here's the gift. Like right now, we're getting ready to send out, we wish you a lotto luck, and then they have like little lottery tickets, right? So we come up with all of these things. Now, by the way, you may say to yourself, that's a lot to think about. The good news is you think about it once and you've got it for years to come. Like, yeah, one time you have to. Yeah.
This is genius. So much of what you said is, but this, you just really perked me up because I've never heard this before.
Yeah.
So walk me through this. Every month you give them, it sounds like a database playbook for the month.
Yep. Every month it's a database playbook. And so like, for instance, on Monday when we have our team meeting, we will debut April's. And so they'll be handed April's database plan and we will sit in silence for 10 minutes while everyone fills it out. Because remember, we went back to consistency, right? Agents aren't consistent with their database. So it's my job as their leader to hold them accountable with consistency. So by the end of the meeting, my marketing team will actually give me an Excel list and show me that everyone filled it out while we were sitting there before they're allowed to leave the team meeting.
What are they filling out?
So what we do is we put the database plan in like a PDF that we pass out. They scan a QR code that takes them to a form where they check boxes. So this ties in database and leverage because now an example of this in our organization is, Jason, if you're sitting in the crowd, you check that you want to take advantage of the mailer and you want to do the VIP box. Let's say you check both of those. Okay. Now that email comes to our marketing team and we execute on that for you. We create it, we brand it to you, we throw your photo on it, we make sure it's got all of your stuff. We send it to you and say, hey, Jason, does this look good? You approve it. You say, yep, good. And then we take care of the rest. And so that has really helped us, because one of the struggles when you went back and like talking about profitability, you will become more profitable when you can have your agents self-generating more, because that's not necessarily business. It's not like we're buying Zillow leads or a ton of billboards or whatever, right? So our business is now about 60% self-generated because of the database plan that we created a couple years ago that I hold them accountable to. Now it also helps them because between you and I, if I'm an agent on a team, that's a value to me because I don't want to have to think about that stuff myself. I don't want to have to execute on it myself. And then how they pay for it is out of that marketing budget that we give them every single month. So that's how that works.
Within this marketing plan for the month, you're also giving them conversation frameworks and hot buttons to talk about. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So like, for instance, for the month of March and April, we do a client event, which for anyone listening, when you're talking about doing client events, you always want them to be about like 45 to 60 days before your busy season, right? So like we really start selling a ton in May. So naturally we host an event at the end of March, right? Early April. So like the calls right now are inviting them to our opening day party that we host. So sometimes they're client events. We want it to be as simple as possible because the easier you make it, the more likely they are to do it, right? So if I hand you this playbook and I say, hey, here's what you're going to do for your database in the month of April, all you have to do is check one or two of the boxes, then you're more likely to do it. Now, what happens is in the one-on-one, so like for instance, I just met with one of our agents, Larry, we got to send out that spring letter. Have you approved it yet? No, I got to look at it, but I didn't say, it was good. Okay, we're going to pull it up right now. We're going to look at the spring letter together. We're going to approve it together so that way we can get out to your database today, right? So that's like the accountability of holding them accountable to what they said they were going to do.
I think it is brilliant. So from training to accountability to leverage to branding to database, this is the equation. And when you add all these things together, they can't help but be more successful.
Increase per person production.
I guess the key to all of this coming together, though, are the models and the systems and the operations around it. Yeah. So when you think about bringing on, you're going to start the database thing. How do you think about what's the order of events to make something from an idea in Jeff's head to actually operating at a high level?
Yeah. So, Jeff, sometimes it's like, hey, you'll figure it out type of thing.
Yeah, but how do you think about it? Because you're the one charged with making all this stuff work.
Yeah.
What's your play? Do you brainstorm? Do you make a spreadsheet? Do you immediately just try it? And if it fails, so what? You just make it better as you go? How do you implement?
Yeah, good question. So I'll tell you, I am very big on asking others to poke holes. Like right after this, for instance, I'm meeting with our leadership team where I have a new idea that I'd like to run past them, that I'm 50-50. And I'll say, sell me on why it's a good idea or sell me why it's not. My biggest question that I always ask everyone I know is, what am I missing? Right? What am I not seeing? And, when you talk about implementation, it's poking holes in it, having people look at it. Anything we implement in our business, we always get the buy-in, our most influential people in our organization first. And then, it's finding out, and this is why it's smart to have your operations people time block, because I know right now in our organization who has a little bit of more bandwidth to take on a new project. So I look at not only who has the time, but also who has expressed interest in it. One of the things we do in our organization is I never hire like listing coordinators or transaction coordinators or marketing people. I hire you as a client care associate where you have job responsibilities under each of those. Like one of the tasks you do is a listing coordinator. One of the tasks you do is marketing. One of the tasks you do is transaction. And then I watch you over the next year and I see what you do the best at and what you enjoy the best. And then I put you down a path to now become our next listing coordinator or now to become our next marketing person. So I pay attention to who on my bench could take over this idea or whatever the case is. And then obviously work on developing you. And, ultimately, I talk about this all the time. If we have to do it more than once a week, then there should be a system for it, which is why like the database plan isn't them writing on a piece of paper or circling what they want to do. It's filling out a form that automatically goes to our marketing team that I can see in our back end how they're progressing towards it. And that's what's really cool, and like anyone who's listening, when we're talking about growing a strong sales manager, sometimes look at who your operations people are. You'd be surprised. They actually sometimes make the best sales managers because they understand both sides of the process and how to actually take that business to the next level.
Love it. Brilliant. All right, I want to switch gears. I get totally, by the way, why you're so damn successful. Like, I just get it. And you get it. You get this industry at such a deep level, every piece of it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you love it. That's it. All right, I want to go all the way back to ancient Athens. There was a theologian named Epicurus who bought this awesome villa in downtown Athens, and he would invite his best friends over to hang out in his garden to talk about the challenges of life. And he called it Epicurus' garden. Will you join us in our garden and talk about life?
Okay.
Okay. I want to start with money. You grew up modestly, and you've had tremendous success. And between boats, and I see you on private planes, and you are living a life. What does money mean to you?
So for me, and obviously you mentioned cats. So actually one of my major passions is I help run an animal rescue in Michigan. Last year we adopted out 973 animals. Like, we are by no means small. We're not like the animal rescue in your house. We're a full-blown Michigan approved shelter. For me, money is my ultimate goal is to make the most amount of money possible so that way when I retire, I can retire by opening a shelter. That is my dream. What has always impressed me, and this is probably where I got the most influence for wanting to earn a good income. When I first started working, or volunteering, I should say, with this shelter, we had a sponsor who we would bring an animal that would need $10,000 worth of medical care. And it was my job to pitch the sponsor on why I needed their money. And I saw how they could dish out $10,000 to save this animal, $15,000 to save this animal, and, take animals that probably would have been euthanized if it wasn't for this person. I want to do that same thing. And so when I look at earning money and what money means to me, it means that one day I'll make a different impact in people's lives and be able to be just like that person who could say, yeah, whether it's an animal or person, whatever the case is, obviously the passion lies with the animal rescue, but that's my end goal. And everyone around me knows that that's my end goal. When I retire, I might be the old cat lady. I won't personally have a ton of the cats in my house, but I'll be saving them all.
That's so good. So a decade ago, I wrongly predicted the future, which if you hang out with me long enough, I do that constantly. And my prediction then was that the administrative people that were running these big teams were going to all wake up one day and say, wait a second, the magic is in the operations side. I'm going to go own my own team. And I kind of thought that you were going to watch this ascension, because this idea that you were going to have a COO who ultimately could turn into a CEO would naturally then get them to go just say, I'm just going to start my own business. I'm going to name it the greatest real estate team on earth.com, and I'm just going to go run it. And this day and age of the rainmaker, quote unquote, owning the businesses may change. That didn't happen. Why not?
It's a good question. And by the way, I get asked that a lot. You've obviously worked alongside Jeff for 13 years. Technically, you know how to do all the things. Why haven't you gone out and done it on your own? And honestly, and this is a good lesson for anyone who's leading others, one of the things that I love the most about Jeff is he's always done a great job of making my biggest world fit inside of his. And so he's always he won't tell me this, but if I had to guess, he's already planning what my next role is, in another 3 to 5 years, when I succeed at this one. And that's his focus. His focus is, okay, I got to make it bigger. I got to make this world bigger. I'll remember years ago, he showed me the Walt Disney map and showed me all of the different, and in that moment, I was bought in. But honestly, it takes it back to the family reunion day. On day one, I saw how many people were looking up to him. And I knew that, could I get far by myself? Sure. But will I get farther with him? Yes. And that's why I knew that I was in that right place. And over the last 13 years, I live my own real life every single day that I get to work with our agents. When I bring someone new into our organization, I think part of the reason why I succeed with recruiting and retention is because our agents know, and people that I meet with, they know that there is nothing I'm more passionate about than this organization and watching our people live their own real life. And I've been able to do that because Jeff has put me in a position to live mine.
What's the one thing for the agent that's out there that hasn't found their person yet? And they're like, God, I feel like no one succeeds alone. The road of entrepreneurship is lonely as hell. I've been through a couple of folks, but I haven't found my human, my person.
I get that question a lot. Like, where do I find a Taylor? And my response is, you don't find a Taylor, you grow a Taylor. Like, so who are you investing? I'm like one of the, you put them in like the water and you watch them grow. It's who are you investing your time in? Like, you'll remember in the early years, there has never been a time, like when Jeff trained me as his executive assistant, I sat beside him every single day. We did not have offices. We had one office. We literally sat across one another from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. every single day. I heard every conversation he was having. I started to learn his mannerisms. I started to learn how his mind thinks. And by doing that, that really put me in the best position to eventually be in the position to be the CEO or now take things off of his plate. And so, my answer to that is like going and finding the person. You need to pay attention to who's currently in your role that you're not considering. I'm so grateful that, I'm grateful that I went to him and said, hey, I feel like I need to be a little bit more challenged, but I'm also more grateful that he said, okay, let's try you over here. On paper, probably if you look at like my KPA or my DISC, I probably don't have the profile to be a sales manager because I had done operations for 10 years, right? And they're not normally the same beast. And so, I'm grateful that he gave me the chance and gave me the freedom to fail a little bit because my first year I did fail. But I learned, and the next year was the best year in the history of the company, right? So I'm thankful that he gave me that opportunity and looked at it and said, okay, who is in our world right now who I could be underestimating could succeed in this position, and how am I developing them for it?
It's so good. It's so good. Taylor, you inspire me. Just listening to you, which I could do all day, I'm taken by the depth of understanding that you have and the calmness of your spirit. You seem so in the right place at the right time with the right people. And it is so special.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jason.
Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I told you. I mean, she is unbelievable. There's so many rainmakers out there that are sure that if they took a different role in the business or let someone else be the CEO, grand poobah, and all things in charge, that the business would go the other way. Friends, I am here to tell you that is absolutely not the case. Gary Keller, who, by the way, together with Dave Jenks and Jay Papasan, they wrote the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is the namesake for this show. His company experienced its biggest growth when he stepped back as CEO and brought in Mo Anderson. Jeff Glover has this incredible business. He steps back as CEO, and I am proud to report that this year they had record numbers compared to all the other 20 years they had been in business. The difference is who is driving, the attention to detail, the clarity on the value that they provide. It's no wonder why Taylor is so successful. Whether it's the way that they're running the office meetings, or the value that they're providing, or the way that they practice the presentations that they give, none of it is left to chance. You see, in most of these outros, I go through and I document for you step by step what they did. I don't even want to do that because I only want you to leave this episode thinking about one thing, which is you don't have to go do everything. But when the outcome matters, the way you do things does too. And Taylor doesn't leave any of it to chance. She knows exactly what she's going to cover at the meeting. She knows exactly how she's going to teach her people during training. She knows exactly what they're going to do to generate leads. And she knows exactly the type of agent that she's recruiting into their world. She's not leaving anything to chance. If you have a plan, you can then execute it, and only then do you get to have this sort of success. Here's my question for you. What are the 3 or 4 pieces that matter most in your business? Now, what's the one-page plan for each one of those things? Now, go execute. And if you don't have that, friends, it's possible that no matter how busy you get, you won't get the business you want, because busyness doesn't mean business. Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week. And every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.